Hey, top of the morning, everybody. Welcome to a Friday edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings. The voice you are listening to is Emerson Latzia. We got a jam-packed weekend of baseball, a new sense of urgency around MLB as teams kick off the second half of the season tonight. Looking back, though, on what went down ahead of the All-Star break, a few fun facts for you to feast your eyes on. Most bet player, I don't think that's a surprise. Shohei Ohtani. Most bet team, the Tampa Bay Rays. Most bet game, the Red Sox at the Yankees back on June 11th. And as of right now, first half of the season, the Yankees were the most bet World Series winner.
That's a loser.
What the hell, Gary? And it was on this program yesterday. You were like, I'm betting them to miss the playoffs.
And I stand by it.
Oh, I like that bet.
Yeah, I bet you do. Steve Buchanan is here as well. So 15-game slate, absolutely loaded. Let's break it down with you two. And let's start by looking at the guys who helped make bettors the most money in the first half. So DK put together a full lineup from both the American and National League here, Bukes. Starting in the American League, who stands out to you in this squad? I see your man, Rafael Devers, sitting there at the hot corner.
Yeah, he's there. I mean, look, there's some obvious names on this list. You got Judge and Devers, like you mentioned. Ohtani's on there. But then I see Jake Bauers over in right field, and I was like, what? Like, how did that even make sense? Like, is it unders? And then I kind of started getting into his numbers, and I guess it actually kind of makes sense. He's only played 49 games, only hitting 224, but for the hits that he has collected this year, he just has a ton of extra base hits. 27 hits overall, 17 of them have gone for extra bases. So that's pretty impressive. So it starts to make sense if you're betting, over 1.5 total bases or to get a hit. Like when he's got a hit, the Leafs have really counted for something. So it did make sense once you started going into the numbers there. But at least from the eyeball test there, I'm like, what on earth is he doing on this list? But dive into the numbers, yeah, kind of makes some sense.
Gare Bear, biggest surprise do you hear?
I mean, first and foremost, Jorge Mateo is not a second baseman. Can we just say that? He is a shortstop. He's a very good shortstop. But this middle infield, like, same immediate reaction as Steve. Like, were people betting the over on, like, 0.5 strikeouts in a game for Anthony Volpe and making money that way? Like,
if it makes your money, it makes your money, dude.
I don't think Jorge Mateo has a hit since April, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But I do think the reason they're on this list, and maybe to a lesser extent, someone like Ezekiel Duran is also on this list, stolen base overs. And they're not as profitable as they were last season, but you're still looking at two guys in Mateo and Volpe who stole a ton of bases in the first half and just stolen bases up around baseball in general. So I have to believe that that's the way people were making money on Volpe and Mateo in that first half, because they weren't doing a whole lot else in the first 90 games of the season.
All right, Bukes, over on the National League side, usual suspects, Acuna on there, Alonso on there. Just like on the AL side, is there someone here who you're like, how the hell did you end up on this list?
Yeah, Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. I mean, the power numbers have just not been there since he's made the switch over to San Diego. If you look at his isolated power on the year, it's at the lowest of his career since 2017 when it was at .130. It's currently at 139 for the season right now. So maybe this is just another situation where unders have been the name of the game. Like if you're in that lineup, you think you're, in a good position to get on base, maybe record an RBI and whatnot. So I would think at least, especially earlier in the season, like the unders on some of those props were probably some pretty decent plus money. So I think that's why Xander made the list here, because overall it's been a pretty big disappointment for him. Let me take that back. It's been a massive disappointment for the entire San Diego team, but specifically Xander Bogaerts being the new acquisition over the offseason. So I think maybe unders has really been the reason why Bogaerts made this list.
Care Bear, who grabs your attention on the National League side here?
So I think there's two fun ones. Jaime Candelario at third base, sneakily having an amazing season for the Nationals. And the fun part about having an amazing season for the Nationals is your prize is you probably don't have to play for the Nationals much longer. The trade deadline is in 2 weeks. Candelario is going to be freed from his Washington shackles. He will go play for a contending team. So congratulations to him. And then Christopher Morel, that's a fun one too, because you have to believe so much of the money made on Morel was people just betting Morel to hit a home run when he got called up from the Cubs and hit a home run in 9 of his first 12 games, including a 5 consecutive day stretch in that span of time. So that was a fun 2 weeks for all of us. Maybe the most fun Cubs fans have had this season because they also haven't had much to smile about.
No, they certainly haven't, and they'll open up a series against the Red Sox. That'll be a fun one in Chicago tonight. That's who helped make bettors all that money, dudes. But what about on the DFS side? Garion, your first half DFS MVP on DraftKings. Who is it?
So I think this is pretty easy. I think it's Acuna. And it's for a lot of things that he's done. I mean, he is top 25 in every major offensive category, like the standard 5-cat leagues, top 25 in all of them, which is impressive considering he is a leadoff hitter who is top 25 in RBI. Like, he leads the league in runs scored and is still driving in dudes at the same time. I mean, his season has been otherworldly. But I think the thing that separates Acuna from his closest competitor, who is Shohei Ohtani, is when we are talking about DFS, you have to remember Ohtani does not generate offensive stats when he is a pitcher. Go look at his numbers at the plate when he is pitching. He has been like Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds combined on those nights, but it did not matter for DFS because he was only a pitcher on those nights. And he's also had a couple blow-up starts. So I just think Acuna, because of all the positive he's done and some of the slight, weird, quirky negatives the DFS game lends to Ohtani, I think it's clearly Acuna.
All right, Bukes. Garion said it was an easy choice for him. It's Acuna. How easy of a choice was your first half DFS MVP?
This answer I got in a split second. It's Jordan Lyles of the Kansas City Royals.
Good one.
Stacking against him has been the way to pad your DFS bankroll the entire season. From a sportsbook standpoint too, if you bet over 2.5 earned runs allowed for Jordan Lyles, that bet hit on 14 of the 17 starts that he made in the first half. You look at his game log. He hasn't allowed 2 earned runs in any game ever. It's been 1 run or 3+. 5 times he's allowed 4 earned runs. 4 times he's allowed at least 5 earned runs. 3 times he's allowed at least 6 earned runs and a start. This is a guy that it is automatic. When he is taking the mound, you are stacking against him. So maybe you think it's a particular DFS player you're putting in your lineup. No. It's a number of DFS guys you're putting in your lineup because of the opposing pitcher this season. Jordan Lyles is that dude for us in 2023 for DFS.
Well, it's unfortunate for the Rays. They won't be facing him tonight when they go up against the Kansas City Royals. Let's dive into tonight's slate here, Bukes. Give me someone you were going to be paying up for on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot for Paul Goldschmidt to kind of get on the right foot here in the second half. Really kind of limped into the All-Star break. He was averaging about 5.5 DraftKings fantasy points in the final 10 games heading into that All-Star break. But he's going up against Trevor Williams and the Nationals, who has been getting hit hard like he usually does. 355 WOBA against righties, 11 of the 18 home runs he's allowed on the season. The thing about Goldschmidt, he's usually somebody who really does well against lefties. That has not been the case so far this year. He's actually hitting righties much better than he has in the past. 14 of his 15 home runs against a righty, 15 doubles, 383 WOBA. That's usually the numbers you expect when he's going up against a lefty, but now he's doing that a lot against righties this year. So going up against someone against Trevor Williams gives up a ton of fly balls, a ton of home runs. I think this is a good spot for Goldschmidt to get on that right foot to start the second half of the season.
Gary, and whose salary is worth paying up for tonight in DFS?
So I'm going to go with Tyler Glasnow. And look, I will fully admit, I think Glasnow is going to be the highest owned pitcher on this slate, but I am curious to see what level of ownership we reach with Glasnow, because this is like opening day part 2, opening day junior. There are a lot of aces taking the mound tonight. There are a lot of very good pitchers at really reasonable prices. Like, you look at even this guys who are sub 9K on this slate. You've got like Luis Castillo, you've got Justin Verlander, you've got Corbin Burns. Like, there are areas where you can try and save money with an elite pitcher. So maybe you don't pay up for Glasnow as much as you normally would, but this is a smash spot for me against the Kansas City Royals. Glasnow, over his last 3 starts heading into the All-Star break, a strikeout rate over 46%. He's basically been Felix Bautista except a starter in his last 3 starts. And one of those outings was against the Braves. So it's not like he's been doing this against terrible competition, but that's exactly what the Royals are. And really, if there's been one knock on Glasnow since he's come off the IL, it's been his propensity to give up home runs. Well, guess what? The Royals have the lowest isolated power in baseball across the last 30 days. They are not capable of hitting home runs. So Tyler Glasnow should have an incredible start tonight.
And 1 week from tonight, he will be starring in Oppenheimer.
It's true.
Which movie are you going to see first, Steve? Barbie or? It's Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer? It's the same thing.
You gotta cleanse the palate with Barbie. Like afterwards.
Steve, are you going to see either movie?
I do want to see Oppenheimer, but I don't think anybody cares to know that.
All right. I do. Where can you find value on the slate? Maybe more people care about that question, Steve. Can you answer it for me?
Yeah, Jesus Sanchez over with the Miami Marlins, one of the best performing teams in Major League Baseball. People are not giving the respect that they deserve right now. Only 2,800 going against the Baltimore Orioles tonight, facing Dean Kremer, who has had some really bad numbers against lefties. 386 WARBA against them, 11 of the 20 home runs he's given up on the year. Sanchez has got some really good pop in his bat for somebody who's under 3K and probably batting cleanup tonight as well. 224 isolated power on the season, 117 WRC plus. You know, Kremer's somebody who's been really started the season pretty well, has been hit pretty hard as the season went on there. So the Marlins might be a pretty sneaky stack here tonight. They're not going to be overly expensive either. So getting someone like Sanchez, who should be hitting in, like I mentioned, the cleanup spot at 2,800, I think that's a really solid spot here tonight.
How far down the salary board are you willing to go tonight, Garion, for value play?
I mean, not quite that far for this particular guy, but Josh Donaldson is $3,500, which seems high for a guy who strikes out in like 75% of his plate appearances. But guess what? He is a 2 true outcome player at this point. It's a strikeout or a home run. And nowhere is that more clear than his at-bats against left-handed pitching so far this season. 23 at-bats, 5 hits, 4 of them have left the park. Because again, that's all Josh Donaldson does at this point. He is the ultimate high upside, cavernous floor value play at this point. But guess what? He's going up against Austin Gomber, who is a bad left-handed pitcher, and this game is at Coors Field, where maybe the Rockies should look into signing Donaldson this offseason, because I feel like that's about the only place he can really play and be good at this point in his career. But the Yankees in general, they've been anemic against right-handed pitching. They've actually been pretty good against left-handed pitching, and Donaldson's kind of the poster child for that, so I'll take him at sub 4K tonight in Colorado.
Steve, if we went to a party as Ken and Barbie, I would let you go as Barbie. That's how much you mean to me.
Okay.
Guys, your job here is done. I'll see y'all later because we got to hit the track. This weekend, DraftKings is doing just that, hitting the track in God's country at the Crayon 301 in New Hampshire. At New Hampshire Motor Speedway, 2311 Racing's Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick will both be driving DK branded cars for the race. You're taking a look at both of them getting wrapped ahead of Sunday's big event. Reddick, by the way, plus 1,800 to hoist the 20-plus pound Loudon the Lobster in victory lane on Sunday. Wallace a little further down the board at plus 3,000 outright. And last week, Jared Carrabis catching up with both Bubba and Tyler at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The trio was joined by Cubs closer Adbert Alzolay to talk a little bit about the upcoming race and try to find some common ground between NASCAR and baseball.
There's a divide right here. We're on the baseball side of things. You guys are on the NASCAR side of things. There's a guy in our game by the name of Shohei Ohtani. He can hit, he can pitch, and he's really good at both of them. He's on pace to hit 57 home runs and strike out over 200 batters. Is there a Shohei Ohtani type in NASCAR?
I think we're going to find out today. I'm going to show that I can throw a first pitch. And
Okay.
race cars, so.
All right. Okay.
I'd say I'm way more athletic than Tyler. Yeah, there's only a few. There's only a few that can play other sports inside of our sport.
So him being a closer, he's got 3 outs to get in the 9th inning. So he has adrenaline to just go out there and have an adrenaline dump, and I can just air it out. I got to get 3 outs, so I'm going to be pumping heaters. How do you guys manage your adrenaline? Because a race is not the equivalent of getting 3 outs in the 9th.
Yeah, we have a lot of stop and goes, right? From cautions, stage cautions. the thing about road course racing now is that they took the stage breaks out, so we can run from green flag to checker flag if there's no cautions, and so always got to be on it, especially with this racetrack where there's very, if any, room for error.
Can't make a mistake.
Yeah, you can't make a mistake, so you have to just be on it the whole time. So that goes back to just the mental prep work that you put in the week of or weeks prior, just to try to stay laser focused. So there's one thing that can get you dialed out, and next thing you know, you're on the hook on the tow truck going home early. So definitely don't want that to happen.
Do you use adrenaline? Like when you come out to the mound in the 9th inning, are you trying to stay calm and focused? Are you saying like it's the 9th inning, I got to get 3 outs, we got to get a Cubbies win today?
I know like I'm already like super hyper person, like, so that's why I try to keep everything calm in there, because I know as soon as I get to the mound and I feel the crowd, that is what is gonna take my adrenaline to the roof. So I just try to get up there and be as calm as I can at that moment, you know, because I know like as soon as you get the first strike, everyone will start clapping, everyone will start being excited out there, and then when you get to 2 outs and then the whole Greeley field is standing up, it's just amazing, you know, you can feel that adrenaline just going from your feet all the way to your head. So just try to keep the balance between me being calm out there and then feeding of the energy of the crowd is a big point.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, so the other thing too with when you talk about NASCAR, we are guys that, I mean, strictly baseball, like how would you, because right now, if we wanted to make a pitch to a NASCAR fan to come on over and watch baseball, there's multiple points we could hit. Like, hey, we got the pitch clock now, like it's shorter, it's quicker pace. How would you make a pitch to a baseball fan to come check out NASCAR?
That's tough.
I
I mean, you know, I feel like you're always waiting for the unexpected moment, right? In baseball, like, you know, some things that can change the course of an entire game is a slip up, an error, you know, and a lot of times in the NASCAR racing, you know, you'll see that, whether that's a crash or the dominant car having a wheel fall off. You know what I mean? Like, you never know when the entire tide of the race is going to change, and just the unexpected happens. And I think, especially at the Chicago street course that we're going to race on Sunday, you know, if someone up at the front of the field or even in the middle of the field makes a mistake in some of the tighter sections of the track, it could change the outcome of the race for half the field. So you just always got to be on your feet and be aware. I think that's what makes it exciting. That's what I loved about it. Being a kid growing up is just, you know, the guys that are dominating the race all day long, or the players that are doing the guys that are in the mix, you know, something can happen. A caution can come out. They have damage to their car. Next thing you know, somebody that has really been a part of the story all day is up in the mix and potentially stealing the win.
I think also, sorry not to interrupt, but when I meet a lot of first-time fans at the race, or they haven't been to a race in a long time, but what got them hooked is just the sound. Yeah. Starting up the motors, and then one flying lap by you, it's like, oh, all right, this is different than driving down the interstate here in Chicago. So it's I think the sounds and just the sights of it are just something you've never seen before.
Yeah, I got to check it out. You guys are gonna be racing in New Hampshire, which is my neck of the woods. I'll ask you the same question. If there's someone that's a strict NASCAR fan, they've never given baseball a chance, what pitch are you making to them to be like, hey, come on over and check out baseball?
I mean, it's a lot of different points you can make now, because like you say in the beginning, like we got the pitch clock now, so like the game is going by fast. So
do you like it?
I love it.
Okay.
I'm personally, like, I'm always being kind of pitcher that I like to be going, so that, like, it doesn't affect me at all. I love it. And then other one is that you don't got the chip no more on the infield, so there is more action on the field. There is more stolen base now. You see, there is a guy with 40 stolen bases already.
Ronnie,
you know, and then
he's gonna go 40-80 this year. It's crazy.
So that is so crazy. I just feel like there is more action now on the baseball field than it used to be, like probably like the last 4 years with all the chief and everything that we had going on. But I feel like it's just a lot of more fun. And then if you're here in Chicago, you definitely have to go to a Chicago Cubs game, because everything here at Greeley Field is just different. Like if you come on a Friday 120 game, like you see the bleachers are popping, everyone is excited. So hopefully we play a really good game that day. So it's just coming here. I'm feeding of the energy that this place gives you.
Day games at Wrigley just hit different. All right, let's see these race cars here. These are DraftKings race cars. Whose is whose? Okay. All right, let's give it a grade. All right, so you obviously know like the baseball grading scale, right? It only goes up to 80. 80 grade would be the best. What grade would you give the logos on these cars right here?
I like it. I will give you a 70.
70 grade.
Yeah,
That's
I will
good.
give you a 70.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the other one.
Yeah, this
That
one
one's
has
mine.
more
What do
going
you think of that one?
in this side. So, yeah. I will give this one a 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. That's the end of the NASCAR MLB crossover. July something is the race in New Hampshire. Go check them out. This is July 16th. Head on down, check these guys out. Also head on down to Wrigley, and Adbert's gonna be throwing some nasty fuel bombs out there. Close out Cubbies games. We'll see you there.
All right, you guys don't forget, you can check out more of Jared each week right here on the Sweat Tuesday Takeover. We're live 11 o'clock Eastern time every, yes, you guessed it, Tuesday morning. Catch us on the DraftKings Network at our new time, 4 o'clock Eastern. And next week, Jared, by the way, back from the All-Star game, so we're going to hear about his quest to make Shohei Ohtani his best friend. He also sat down with All-Star pitcher Justin Steele. Justin Steele, a friend of this program, a friend of the Sweat, big player in the fantasy football world. Josh Applebaum, Jeff Ulrich, welcome to the show, guys. It's a Football Friday. We're going to focus here on the running back position today. I'm going to let you go first since you're here in studio. You were so kind to drive in and hang out with us here. Give me your top 5 running backs entering this season.
Well, Emerson, it's great to be back with you here, and it's good to talk some football. So I think me and Jeff probably have a similar list, at least at the start. You know, McCaffrey here. I'm not going to overthink this thing too much.
Yeah.
Guy's electric. I think he was so happy he got that trade to San Francisco. To me, with McCaffrey, it's just, you know, any little 5-yard run, you know, little dump-off pass, he can take it to the house, both catching and receiving. After McCaffrey, I have Josh Jacobs.
What?
Which is a bit of a surprise, and Jeff's probably going to tell me why it's a dumb pick here. But
I
would
agree.
just say with Jacobs, I loved his year last year. He rushed for over 1,600 yards, 4.9 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns. He's also a dual threat, had over 50 catches. I would just say, though, maybe some regression this year. According to some of the odds here for his player props, his under is being juiced up 1,049 yards, under -120, and his rushing touchdowns is under 8.5, -120 as well. So switching to Jimmy G, you know, you still have some good threats here with Devontae Adams. They bring in Jacoby Myers. But Jacobs had a great year last year. I'm going off of what I saw last year. Projecting this year, though, could have a good year, but a lot of these props are juiced up under for Jacobs.
Okay, and we'll dive into his situation with the Raiders coming up. You think that's crazy. Jeff has a freaking rookie running back in his top 5.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, apologies for not driving in today. I mean, I just got up a little late.
You're just
look, like Josh, Christopher McCaffrey, number 1, second year in the Kyle Shanahan offense. They're going to ride him with Brock Purdy potentially. You know, just having a little bit of elbow issues to start the year. I will talk about Nick Chubb a lot here because he's the guy I did almost rank Nick Chubb number 1. I love this spot for him going into his age 28 year. There's no Kareem Hunt there. You know, Nick Chubb's career high is 36 receptions. I think he could break that. I think he could push for 40, maybe even 50 catches. And Nick Chubb is already one of the top rushers, if not the best, just, you know, between the tackles rushers in the NFL. Going to be playing on an offense now with Deshaun Watson coming back, could be more efficient there. Kevin Stefanski loves to run the ball. I think Nick Chubb has a chance to end the year as RB1. You mentioned Bijan Robinson. I'm not super high on him, but I just the landing spot is just too good to ignore Bijan. Atlanta's going to run the ball. They ran the ball last year in all kinds of different scenarios. When they were down, when they were up, Bijan's going to get a lot of carries, an explosive guy. Again, I'm not going to rank him higher than 4th because I got a lot of respect for Eckler, but I do think Robinson's still going to be very effective.
All right, Jeff, you got a favorite bet for one of the guys on your list there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I talked about Nick Chubb there off the top, and I'm going to stick with Nick Chubb. I just think a really big season is coming. I think there's a couple different ways you can attack him. Nick Chubb over 8.5 rushing touchdowns is something I'm very interested in. He had 12 rushing touchdowns last year, but Nick Chubb was only 13th in red zone rushing attempts. Again, Kareem Hunt is not there. The Browns love to use Kareem Hunt in the red zone, and that's what took away some of Chubb's upside. But Chubb is a guy who can score from 20 yards out. He's a great, again, like a red zone rusher. And he's just going to get more opportunities this year because the backup to the Cleveland Browns right now is Jerome Ford, a guy who has about 20 carries in the NFL. Nick Chubb is going to get a ton of usage, and I think that 8.5 is just a little bit too low. So I like attacking there. And if you want to play Nick Chubb a little bit, just with a little bit higher odds, a little bit lower investment, Offensive Player of the Year is plus 2,200 for Nick Chubb. We have seen a running back twice over the last 8 years. Todd Gurley and Derrick Henry win this award. And look, Nick Chubb right now, the favorite to lead the league in rushing yardage. Again, I mentioned the increased red zone usage. If he leads the league in rushing touchdowns as well, I think there's all the chance that voters will look to take a running back this year. I think Nick Chubb at plus 2,200 for Offensive Player of the Year. Really nice odds there.
Yeah, plus 450 to lead the league in rushing yards in the regular season. Applebaum, he's probably the best runner in football. He's routinely found success despite the lack of dangerous passing threat under center there. And I have a feeling you're leaning in a similar direction as Jeff.
I am, and I just want to make one statement here. Jeff and I did not talk before the show. We happen to have the same bet here.
That's because
so
Jeff doesn't call back or text back, and I can't confirm that.
Well, I love the fact that I'm with the same wise guy here with this over. So I'm going to go with Nick Chubb over 8.5 touchdowns. Number one, I think Jeff made a great case why he's going to go over this number, but let's just look at a data analytics standpoint. One thing that I like to look for, Emerson, is juiced up futures or win totals or prop bets here. So one thing, when you look at the juice, obviously this is a 3-digit number, the tax or commission we have to pay the books in order for them to accept our bet. But also I think it gives you a little bit of an insight into which way the money's going, and also some insight and liability to where the number may move next. So with 8.5, it's over minus 120 at DraftKings. That tells me that a lot of wise guys like Jeff here are betting this over. Does it rise up to 9 before the end of the offseason? We shall see. But if you look at last year, he had 12 rushing touchdowns. He's averaged 9.6 touchdowns rushing throughout his career, and he seems to be getting better with age. Jeff mentioned the fact that no Kareem Hunt to kind of take away those goal line snaps from him. You're going into year 2 now with Watson, so it's a little more familiarity. And also the identity of the Cleveland Browns. Emerson, you think of the Browns, you think of a tough running team, right?
Yes, I certainly do.
And I think
Deshaun Watson.
if they gave you a couple snaps in the end zone, I think you could give us maybe over a half touchdown during the year. I don't know.
Let's not get crazy,
I am built like a Greek god.
It's pretty soft.
But I'm riding the over 8.5, and also Pro Football Focus, #1 ranked rusher here this season. So big year for Chubb, but over 8.5 to me is the most appealing bet.
I mean, there's no question who is going to be the leader of that backfield in Cleveland. You cannot say the same for the Giants and also the Raiders, which Josh Jacobs, #2 on your top 5 running backs entering this season here, Josh. Both these dudes won extensions. Both of them reportedly prepared to sit out training camp, possibly week 1 as well. Jeff, how do you see this playing out, and which dude likely gets a deal done first?
I mean, there may be no deals here. Look, the one thing about the franchise tag is, and Saquon Barkley even admitted this when he was being interviewed about this a couple days ago, is the teams have all the leverage. After July 17th, that's it. Like the player is either I give up $10 million and I sit, or I play and I take the franchise tag. So, Saquon can certainly make some noise here and put up his frustration, maybe take training camp off, but the leverage is with the teams. And Saquon has already, said, I'm not going to take $12 or $13 million. Like there was an offer made to him for that amount. So he's looking to really cash in here. And, there's just not much that he's going to be able to do. Of the two, I mean, I think Josh Jacobs is far more likely to really potentially put his foot in the ground. We saw Josh Jacobs be frustrated with the Raiders at the end of 2022. I mean, he just may decide to take some of the year off. Like, what is it to Josh Jacobs, who just came off a career year? If he can't cash in now, why would he go back and play with a team that has very, very little upside this year again and burn more of that, wear and tear on his body? I think Jacobs is the far more intriguing guy, and the guy who needs to get a deal done, because if he doesn't, I think there's a way better chance you could see him sit out longer term.
Josh, with the uncertainty surrounding these dudes, what's the impact on Giants and Raiders futures right now?
So a couple interesting futures here. One that would probably make sense if you think about it. The other one really might surprise you here, Emerson. So let's go to the Giants. They had a really good year last year. Dayball really turned that program around. Daniel Jones played well, got his big contract. Barkley, to me, whether you have him or not, obviously he's a great player. But to me, you're probably less interested in bringing him back because the price tag is so high. Obviously, with Jacobs, he means more to that offense. You take him away, it's probably a bigger detriment there to the Raiders. But what's a surprise to me is if you look at the win total for the G-men this year, Emerson, you'd think, they had a good rookie year with Dayball. You obviously won a playoff game as well. You're thinking this team's going to, continue to perform and get better. but their win total is 7.5, and it's juiced up under -120. That doesn't make much sense, right? They win 9 games last year. You think they're going to be even better this year. This tells me it's just a really fishy win total. Maybe the odds makers are expecting some regression here from the Giants. Obviously, you play in a really tough division. So that's surprising to me. To me, that would make me lay off betting the over just because wise guys seem to know something about this team regressing. And then the Raiders, I'm not going to overthink it too much. They go 6-11 last year. They also have a win total of 7.5 at DraftKings, but it is super juiced up under -190. You actually could maybe even middle this. There's an under 7.5 -190. You could actually go over 5.5, 6.5 at some juiced up numbers as well. If they land right on 6 or 7, you could cash both bets. But makes sense to me with Jimmy G. You talk to a lot of people, Emerson, they'll tell you he's terrible. Some guys, people think say he's a really good quarterback. He wins. But to me, this is take the under for the Raiders here, under 7.5, even though the juice is big. It's just I can't get over the fact that 7.5 is under for the G-men. Tells me be careful with the Giants. They're probably going to be a trendy team. But the wise guys, the guys that project these numbers, maybe they're thinking they take a step back this year.
I mean, the situation with these two dudes just backs up the message that the whole position around the NFL has been devalued. So maybe the Giants, maybe the Raiders decide to go out and grab some of these big names that are still in the free agent market. Guys like Zeke Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, all without a home currently. You got a fit for any of these dudes, a good fit?
Yeah, about, 30 minutes away, Gillette Stadium. Let's
Oh,
bring in
right. I've seen Dalvin Cook.
That makes total sense to me.
Does he bring DeAndre Hopkins with him?
I would love to see Hopkins, although in the betting market, you've seen a big move, DeAndre Hopkins to sign with Tennessee. Maybe the kind of the situation there is that maybe Tennessee is playing, or Hopkins played the Patriots against the Titans to get a little bit more money. But to me, Dalvin Cook makes a ton of sense. The Patriots are kind of thin at running back. Ramondre Stevenson, who's kind of right outside, also with your guy Etienne for my top 5 here. He had a ton of carries and touches last year. I think you need some insurance if you overwork him. Patriots depth chart, you have Ty Montgomery, Pierre Strong, and then you have Kevin Harris. I think you could use Dalvin Cook, and Cook might enjoy maybe not having such of a workload. I think Belichick could kind of use him more sparingly, keep him away from injuries. So let's bring Dalvin Cook to New England. I would love that, Emerson.
I've seen Leonard Fournette's name starting to enter the rumor mill and potentially landing with the Patriots, Jeff Ulrich.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think Josh is definitely right. Just looking at it's still Bill Belichick's history too. I mean, he likes to have another guy in the rotation. Mm-hmm. He's rarely been just a bell cow. Oh, I got one guy, I'm going to ride him until the wheels fall off, guys. So I could see Fournette there. I think Dalvin Cook to the Jets is also interesting. That was picking up some steam. I think they just may want some Breece Hall insurance, so they don't have to give Breece Hall a big workload right off the top. It also steals Dalvin Cook potentially from going to the Dolphins. I think another team where you will see them sign a running back is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I mean, it's the Buccaneers. No one's going to talk about them much, but Rachaad White right now is their lead running back. They do have a guy in Sean Tucker, a UDFA, who's really interesting and I think could make some noise in camp. But Rachaad White was 33rd in EPA per rush last year out of 44 running backs, took 100 or more carries. He was not an efficient early down runner. He's a good pass catching back, but I don't think that the Bucs want to give him a big workload. I could see Ezekiel Elliott going to the Bucs. I could see potentially Dalvin Cook, maybe even someone else we're not even talking about. But I think the Bucs are definitely a team that are going to sign someone as well. I think it'd be a good fit for Elliott the most. I mean, I think you could just come in, take the short yardage, some between the tackle stuff, and then White could just handle all the rest.
Gentlemen, thank you. Apologies to Aaron Rodgers, the Jets, and Hard Knocks. We ran out of time. We must dive into the octagon now. After an action-packed UFC 290 here, guys, the fight is going to shift back to the Apex in Las Vegas for a fight night showdown. We're talking here between Holly Holm, who is almost 42 freaking years young, and Mayra Bueno Silva this weekend. So for a preview of this bantamweight main event, let's turn it over to the actual experts to talk about this on the Anik and Florian podcast.
Women's bantamweight division, Holly Holm -155, Mayra Bueno Silva +135. Holm really, Kenny, is so much better than her 8-6 UFC record suggests, in my mind at least. Outpointed Yana Santos back in March. She's won 3 of 4. That sandwiched around a 2022 5-round split loss to Ketlin Vieira, fight in which she was competitive and thought she won. She did. I'm not saying I did. On the other side, Mayra Bueno, 5-2-1 in the UFC. She's been very active, Kenny. 2 straight submission wins, 3 straight wins overall. That serving to position her for her first UFC main event against a former world champion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I think that Holly can be in the driver's seat, though. I think that her ability to outpoint her, to get in and get out, and stop the takedowns, that's going to be key. She's going to have to keep this on the feet. If she's able to go to the ground, she needs to be the one that's on top, utilizing her ground and pound. She can't get too fancy, though, with her grappling. If she tries to exchange too much, Maida may be able to hit some kind of submission or reversal where she gets on top. But I think Holly, you mentioned her record and how she's much better than her record. I think she's way better a fighter than what she shows. And I think a lot of that has to do with her nervousness, that nervous energy, that tension that she brings into the cage. And it's odd because she has so much experience as a boxer, as a mixed martial artist now, but she just needs to let go and let her skills shine. And we just haven't seen that. I think that's kind of been her biggest hurdle in her mixed martial arts career. But I do think she has the skills to get it done here. She's got to be able to land her strikes, get in, get out, stop the takedowns. If she's able to do that and win these exchanges in the clinch, I think she could do that. I think she's a better striker. You have to watch out for Maida. She's definitely a finisher. She can be crafty at points, but I think Holly just is going to be a little bit too much. I think Holly wins the decision here.
Brian, what do you think about the main event this weekend?
Does Holly Holm have a contract that states that she only fights in fight night main events? Because that's like all this she's ever in.
A lot of Apex miles, huh?
A lot of Apex miles with her. I love Holly Holm. Like, I remember Holly Holm like when I was like kind of a fringe boxing guy watching boxing, and I'm like, man, she's really talented. Came out of the UFC. Lately, though, she's been crashing into her punches and really exchanging in the clinch game, and she likes taking people down now. Her cardio's elite. She's 40. In her 40s, I don't know exactly how old she is, but her cardio is elite. She's in elite shape, and this is a big step up for Silva. Silva has looked good her last time out. 2 submission wins over pretty good competition. But I go back to the Montana De La Rosa fight, and that one bothers me. Montana De La Rosa is a great fighter, but she's never really had the success in the UFC, and she kind of did exactly what Holly Holm could do in this fight. Silva sometimes doesn't have enough volume. She has volume early in the UFC career, and she's kind of laid off. She's been more of a one-trick pony, wanting to get a fight to the ground. Holly is hard to take to the ground. She's big, she's athletic, she's strong in there. I think Holly's going to win a decision here. And I think it's going to be, it's going to be a typical Holly Holm fight. I want her to let her hands go because Silva is hittable, and if Holly can really keep at range and not crash in so much on her punches, I think she can really have a good night. But give me Holly Holm for a dub here.
So another Saturday, another offering from the UFC. Dave Ross, host of VSiN's First Strike podcast. Good to have you here, dude. How you been?
I'm doing great, Emerson. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, after you get through UFC 290, the UFC's done a really good job of not letting you take a breath, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you hop back right in there when you get a future Hall of Famer like Holly Holm on the card. So they've done a pretty good job of keeping up the pace of these fights.
Yeah, are we in store for like a little hangover here, considering how great UFC 290 was? Like, people were calling it one of the most wild nights in MMA history.
Yeah, it was pretty good, Emerson. And whenever you get a guy like Ruthless Robbie Lawler getting out there and going out with a first-round knockout of Nico Price, and he's going right to the Hall of Fame, and he's already in the Hall of Fame, actually got inducted the week of UFC 290. Then you get those 2 title bouts, and as I gave out last week, I was on the 2 dogs in the co-main and the main event, and Pantoja came through for us at plus $1.70. Had to hold my breath a little bit when I hit the judges' scorecards. I didn't think it was as close as they had it as a split decision, but at least that one cashed. And then I really got to tip my cap to Alexander Volkanovski because he was so dominant against Yair Rodriguez. And I thought Yair would be live because when you see a guy going from 145 up to 55 to take that stab at Islam Makhachev in a great fight that Volk lost, and then cutting weight and coming back down to 45, he didn't miss a beat. And I think now we understand that certainly Volk might be the greatest 145-pounder we've ever seen. And I guess the question now, Emerson, is does he stay at 45 to fight Ilya Topuria? Does that really excite him at this stage of his career? Or does he go back up to the challenge to fight Makhachev again? Something I think he really wants to do. If he leaves 45 and vacates that division and goes to 55 for that match with Makhachev, I think everybody would like to see that fight again.
I mean, it really was this nonstop buffet of just jaw-dropping moments in UFC 295. The lineup was announced during UFC 290. So we're going to have on November 11th at MSG, we're going to have John Jones, Stipe Miocic. What do we need to know about this fight right now?
I think what we need to know is when you look at John Jones coming back in his first fight at heavyweight, I was stunned that it wasn't a bigger favor for John Jones back in that night against Cyril Gahn. And it felt like a pretty easy ticket to cash. Everybody that was on the Jones side like me, and I remember, on First Strike saying, I'm not going to wake up the next day betting against the future Hall of Famer, maybe the GOAT, the best we've ever seen in any weight class, certainly at light heavyweight. But now I look at this one, Emerson, and I go, I think this price is mispriced. This fight right now is mispriced. I think Jones should be the favorite, but should he be Stipe Miocic, maybe arguably one of the best heavyweight champions we've seen as a $3 underdog? I know he's been very inactive since his fights with Francis Ngannou, but this is going to be a true heavyweight with good hands, great hands, as we've seen through the years with Stipe. So I think Stipe is going to be really motivated for this fight. I'll be curious to see where the number goes before we get to November. But right now, as we sit here in July, Emerson, I think Stipe is very live, and I think this fight is just a little bit mispriced to the Stipe side. Again, if it gets any more out of whack, I absolutely will back the dog here, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was for John Jones, his first foray into the heavyweight division. This is not going to be Cyril Gahn in front of him. This is going to be a tough bout in Stipe Miocic.
All right, well, speaking of price, what do you think about Holly Holmes's minus 170 number on the DK Sportsbook? Any chance her younger competition can knock her off? She's almost 42 years old, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the only thing I really liked Holly earlier in the week when she was about minus $1.45, $1.50. And as you mentioned, now she's getting north of 170, 175s out there. And what that did, it also switched the price tag in the way that I see Holly potentially getting her arm raised, and that's via decision, right? And that's why it's juiced so heavily to the over 4.5 rounds, because I don't see a way that Holly gets Mayra Bueno Silva out of there inside of 4.5 rounds. I think this fight does hit the judges' scorecards, and that's where Holly's more than likely to win it. So it was up as high as plus $1.10 or $1.20 down to about plus $1.10. It's going to get to that point if it gets to even money where I'm not going to like to play as much. How does Mayra pull the upset here? If she really wants to be a title contender now that Amanda Nunes has vacated both the 135 and 145 pound crowns, she needs to get this win against Holly Holm and really announce to the division that she has arrived. And the way she has to do that is get this fight down to the ground. Good luck. Holly Holm is really good at her takedown defense. And what Holly has done, as maybe not, she's not the greatest striker anymore in the division. Certainly she doesn't have that knockout power. She is somebody that can control fights. And I think if she can push Mayra Bueno Silva up against the cage and control her with dirty boxing and either have enough distance that she's not in range of a takedown and close the distance when need be and make it an ugly fight with certainly clinch fighting. That's how Holly Holm wins. Let's be honest, maybe a boring decision if it goes 5. Bueno Silva has to get the fight down to the ground in order to get her wrestling off, and that's the way she can pull the upset, as Miesha Tate did many moons ago to take the belt from Holly back when she was champion in this weight class.
Hey, Holly just knocked out the Ronda Rousey comeback speculation as well. What do you think? Is Ronda coming back?
I'd like to see. I never want to retire GOATs, right? And until we saw what happened with Ronda against Holly Holm and then later on against Amanda Nunes, this was the greatest fighter we had certainly seen at 135 pounds. Now, maybe those days are long behind her. What, are you kidding me? I would sign up to see Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm. Just to see them do it one more time. I'm not saying to Ronda, don't come back. If you want to come back, you're properly motivated. Let's see it again one more time.
All right, well, take us back to some fights we do know that will be happening this weekend. Which other ones catch your eye on the card?
I'm really looking at T-Rex here, Terrence McKinney out of Chicago. Right now, you can get him at a plus $1.30. And the reason why is he's been knocked out the last couple times in the octagon. Of course, the Drew Dober fight was the first one where he lost. And by the way, his steamrolling of Matt Frevola, his first time out at UFC in record time for T-Rex, looks a lot better today after the run that we've seen Matt Frevola on. So I really do think Terrence is live here. But the problem is he almost has to be in a kill or be killed situation here. And that's why the under right now is so heavily juiced at a round and a half. I do think the under is in play, but I think you're going to see a dynamic Terrence McKinney here in the first 5 minutes. I think he's really live to get this done. I'm going to take the plus money there to plus $1.30.
Dave, last one for you. We're running tight on time. Hook me up with a lock for Saturday night.
Okay, there's no such thing as a lock.
I know.
But I'll give you my best bet. It's Albert Duraev. I think it's going to be the overplay minus $1.40 against the Iron Turtle here in Jungyoung Park. I don't think either one of these guys can finish the other. They both have great cardio. Duraev's can wane a little bit in the third round. This is going to go over 2.5 rounds. I think it hits a judge's scorecard here. I'm going to play the over at minus $1.40.
All right, Dave Ross, good having you on the Sweat this morning, my dude. We got one final break to go. Messi is shopping in Publix. Sorry, Whole Foods. And also we have a Gold Cup championship to talk about. Our soccer heads are here next.
Hit my bet.
Whoa, I'm back, baby. It's Poppy time.
New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly.
So the player you benched just went off. But with Best Ball on DraftKings, that ends here. Enter a contest and snake draft your team. Every week, you'll automatically rack up points from all your top scorers. No ads or drops, no trades, no I should have played him insteads. Teams with the most points by season's end take home cash prizes. So head to the DraftKings Fantasy app and get in on our biggest best ball contest ever with this latest offer.
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
I'm a busy man. That's why I love Best Ball on DraftKings. Snake draft once and I'm done. Each week, DraftKings makes sure my actual lineup is my optimal lineup. I don't got time to set a lineup every week. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even know what city I'm in right now. That's New York. Sorry.
Play season-long fantasy with Best Ball. Just draft once and you're done. No roster management. New customers can download the DraftKings Fantasy app to get in on our biggest Best Ball contest ever with this latest offer.
All right, we had Football Friday earlier. We're wrapping up the program with a Football Friday. Let's go. Some news and notes to share with everybody from around the soccer universe with two of my faves, DK Nation's Chinmay Vaidya, RotoWire's AJ Scholes. AJ, why did a second straight shootout fail to work out for the U.S. men's national team in the Gold Cup?
Oh, man, did I have some choice words at the end of that game. The problem is it shouldn't have never have even gotten. Like, we needed to avoid it against Canada. We needed to avoid it here. Against Canada, Matt Turner made some amazing saves in the first two shots, something you can't expect your goaltender to do every single time. So like I said, they should have never gone to penalties. They shouldn't have gone extra time, but we've lacked scoring options. I wanted to be shocked by this, but at the end of the day, this seems to be the USA's MO is to lose these games that they really should be winning.
All right, but this is a young U.S. men's national team here, Chinmay. Any bright spots? Come on, can we go glass half full here?
It's hard to go completely glass half empty because even Panama was surprisingly good in this tournament. It's not like they were this pushover team that the Americans should have easily, walked through. But you see some of the inexperience and the youth and, Jesus Ferreira is a great example of this. He had probably one of the best goals of the tournament, and he had, earlier in the group stage, a back-to-back first-half hat tricks, which was the first time ever that an American had scored back-to-back or hat tricks in back-to-back matches. But at the same time, there were so many frustrating misses and just sloppy plays at the top that you get this sort of, he has these moments of brilliance, but he also has these really bad lapses. And that was kind of the entire American team for most of the last two games that they played. They had really good moments and really strong passage of play. And then in times it just completely broke down, both on the goal in Canada in extra time and on the Panama goal, the first one that they gave up. They probably should have given up that second one too, if not for some really poor offside decisions by the Panamanian players. So the nature of shootouts is just that, it's very 50-50 as we saw. You're not going to win every single one, and your goalkeeper is not going to make a save every single time. At the end of the day, this was a second-string U.S. team, so I think you'll see a better effort when the big boys come into play. But I don't know that there's much shame in losing to this particular Panama team the way that it went down, as much as AJ was kind of harping on him. But it is a disappointment for sure.
Yeah, well, looking ahead to the Gold Cup final, who likes Panama to upset Mexico? And if not, Chime, give me a bet you like.
So I think Mexico has been tremendous in this entire tournament. The favorite that has not been phased in any real moment, except for I think that one game against Qatar where they put up like 30 shots and couldn't find the back of the net, but they were already through to the knockout round. Other than that, I think Mexico has done really well. If you like Mexico to win, you're not getting great value on the money line straight up, but a Mexico win and over 1.5 total goals comes in at plus 115. So I really like that as a bet. If you're backing Panama to keep this thing going, but don't want to go all in on a Panama win in regular time, Panama double chance comes in at plus 130. I think a draw in regular time is very possible if Mexico has another one of those stinker performances where they just put up 20 plus shots but can't find the frame.
AJ, what's your move on the DK Sportsbook for the Gold Cup final?
I like taking Panama in this one. I really do. I know I made it sound like I didn't respect them in the previous segment. I do think they played a really good tournament. They were the 5th ranked team heading into in CONCACAF rankings heading into it. So I do think this is a good team. I like them at plus 500. That's a great, huge value play. I agree it could go long. I think I would rather go with just to win the cup bet. Comes in at plus 245. If you want to get crazy out there and try and find some real high value, how about Panama to win in extra time? Comes in at plus 2,000. It's not an impossibility. You could get Panama to win on PKs at plus 900. So there's a lot of ways you can spin this on Panama. Personally, though, I think the one for me is just to win the cup at plus 245.
All right, dudes. We are 1 week away here from Messi's debut in Miami. The dude touched down earlier this week, decided to go grocery shopping at Publix. And let me tell you what, I don't care what anyone out there has to say about Florida. Nothing beats Publix culture. Messi gets it. Even has a nice, delicious box of Lucky Charms in his shopping cart there. But the dude wasn't very bothered in Publix. Not too many people coming up to him, asking for selfies and autographs. Chimney, what does this say about how much the U.S. follows soccer? This guy can just walk around, strut his stuff in Publix, and mash a chicken tender sub.
So some of it might actually have to do with Miami culture in general. There are probably a lot of famous people walking around in Miami as it is. It's kind of the same thing with LA, where you see famous people all the time. And so the novelty kind of wears off. Now, obviously, this is Lionel Messi. This is, the king of all kings. So to see him not be swarmed is a little bit not as encouraging for Miami and the support that they have. But let's talk about, the people's champion. And this guy is carrying family-sized Lucky Charms and Fruit Loops out there. The third box of cereal, I could not tell exactly what it was. Maybe they're giving him some new cereal.
Yeah, I don't know. As a cereal guy, I think it is Frosted Mini Wheats.
Okay,
I think it's OG Frosted Mini Wheats based off the orange corner of the box. I don't know, man. I'm weird.
Hey, no, look, if he wants to shop at Publix in public and not have somebody else do it for him, then that's just icing on the cake here. Yeah. If he's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars playing against competition that is not quite up to his level, and then he can have this level of sort of going under the radar in public, that's the life for a guy like him. So, keep winning, Lionel Messi. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. This is a GOAT move from the GOAT.
He's going to be crushing bowls of cereal on the beach after he scores 6 goals a game, baby. Welcome home, Florida, man. AJ, what's the American equivalent of this? Who is someone who is ginormous over here in the States, who could cross the pond, go to some countries over there, and is just living life in no way that he or she could live over here? I said like Tom Brady. I think there are some parts of the country in Europe, you can go Tom Brady. He just looks like a regular old middle-aged rich white guy.
Yeah, that was exactly going to be my answer. It's like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. The problem for the NBA guys is they just stand out. They're just taller. Mm-hmm. LeBron is going to be 8 feet taller than the rest of the world out there. So they're going to stand out a little bit more. So yeah, that would be my thought. I am a little surprised in a place that has, you know, a heavy Cuban population down in Miami. So more people probably watch soccer because of that culture there. So I'm a little surprised he was able to kind of cruise through Publix like that. But
yeah,
hey, you mentioned the hat tricks. One thing I think is worth looking at on the DK Sportsbook as it comes to Messi, plus 4,000 to be the top MLS goal scorer. The current leader is sitting at 13. That's like 4 hat tricks for Messi, and he's right there. So 4 games in, this guy could be in contention for top goal scorer. So I actually really like that play for a bit of a sprinkle there.
I mean, right now, Chinmay, just listening to AJ for crying out loud, the Messi effect is real. Like Messi Mania, you have to check out this graphic here. Like since signing with Inter Miami on June 7th, how about this? The team becomes the 3rd most followed U.S. sports team on TikTok. Miami's Instagram followers increased 750 freaking % since the announcement. And the cheapest ticket for his first game a week from today, July 21st, his debut, currently $307. Chinmay, what do you expect really over the next week leading up to his expected debut?
Just tons of hype all around. You're going to see plenty of Inter Miami gear all around the city, Messi jerseys flying off the shelves. I can give you, a personal anecdote here in Chicago. Last year, I went to a Chicago Fire game and paid about $20 for a lower level seat at Soldier Field. There's a game in October where Inter Miami is coming to Chicago, and the cheapest ticket that I could find was an upper deck ticket in Soldier Field for about $250.
Damn.
And we don't even know if Lionel Messi is going to play in that game. We don't even know if he's going to play in a midweek game in October in the cold. And people are trying to get me to pay $250 for this guy. So I can tell you the hype is real. The price inflation is real. And, his first MLS game, so his debut is not going to be an MLS game, I don't believe. I think it's a Leagues Cup game. But his first MLS game in Inter Miami, that is going to be a tough ticket to find. And there are going to be some major celebrities in attendance because this is the biggest moment for MLS, and you're seeing it right now with all the social media hype and the prices going up like this.
Yeah, what sucks for us here in Boston, the first thing all of us did here in the office, we went onto the New England Revs website. It's like, oh, damn. Yeah, he's not coming here the rest of the season. Dude, your job here is done. I appreciate you guys. That was a good performance by both of you. Not so much by me, but a great week of shows. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. We are back on Monday. We are looking forward to seeing all of you, seeing us talk sports betting and fantasy.